Hello and welcome to another episode of Startup Hustle Middle East. This season is going to be all about AI, and I've got Asif and Akshay over here, who are the founders of Bidzi. And Bidsy is a place where customers can go to buy businesses or sell their businesses. And so we're going to be learning a little bit about that and how they're internally using AI to make this whole process more efficient. So if you guys can introduce yourself, Akshay, if you can go first, give us a little bit of background about what you do and how you started Bidsy.
Thanks, Sid. So Asif's already warned me to try to keep it brief. So my name's Akshay Dosaj. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bidsy along with Asif. My background is as a corporate lawyer. I started my career in 2005 in the UK. Okay. Specializing in corporate law in the financial institution and energy sector. So buying and selling banks, setting up nuclear power plants, so on and so forth. Left that in 2015 to set up my own restaurant business with my wife. Oh. So we scaled that to 19 locations. One brand that maybe people have heard of, Biryani Pot, was here in Dubai as well.
Very cool.
Sold that, exited that, and then sat around for a while. And that's when Asif and I started talking on things to do. And that's where Bidsy came from.
Very cool. Asif, if you can go.
Sure. Not as storied as Akshay. Spent about 10 years, close to a decade at Microsoft. Learned the tools of the trade in the tech world. Left that, had an itch to be an entrepreneur. Akshay and I got together, discussed a couple of ideas, went through 5 iterations before landing on launching Bidsy.
Amazing. So if you can give me the elevator pitch for what Bidsy does and what separates it from other people who are in this space.
How high does the elevator go? Because if it's 100 floors, Akshay will take it.
No, let's keep it to like 2-3 sentences. It's an elevator pitch.
This is up to you, Asif.
So Bidsy is essentially a platform that helps SMEs buy and sell businesses. When you're looking at selling your business, you're essentially looking for 3 things: advisory, legal support, and escrow. And Bidsy captures all of that into a single process through the portal that any business owner in the UAE can utilize.
Very cool. So is there any type of businesses that you guys work with, or your business agnostic, any kind of business that wants to sell or buy?
You know, we don't really discriminate. We accept all sorts of businesses, pet space, plastic manufacturing, gyms, medical equipment trading, protein supplements, schools, car dealerships, you name it, right? We've interacted and engaged with all sorts of businesses across the UAE, across all Emirates also. So there isn't really any industry that we try and avoid because at the end of the day, every business has a lot of advantages, has a lot of benefits, right? And so you can't really shun something out just because it's part of a particular industry.
Okay, cool. So how would you guys say you're different from typical M&A or, going to the bank like a HSBC or like any of these large-scale, M&A firms? What differentiates you guys, and how are you guys using technology to simplify the process?
So I think there are kind of 2 or 3 real differentiators for us. Mm-hmm. Number one, obviously, it's the fully automated, sort of tech-enabled portal, which allows the entire journey to be seamlessly run through the platform, right? Okay. And that starts with, on a sell side, information memorandum preparation, buyer and seller matching, virtual data room for due diligence. All the main legal documents needed in a transaction are built into our platform, and they are interactive, so you can amend them according to your transaction, and then we provide escrow at the end. Now, running that digitally is certainly a first for this region. Okay. We also run more traditional analog deals. Typically, the larger transactions will run that way, in the range of 30 million, 40 million and upwards. The other big differentiator for us is that we've also got another company in our group called 11 Legal, which is a corporate and commercial law firm. And that provides real expertise, right? For smaller transactions, you don't need sophisticated financial models that bankers or analysts in banks would prepare. Of course, there's a financial angle,
Yeah.
But the legal documentation and running the transaction and the due diligence, that's a key piece. And we provide real expertise at that,
Okay.
which sets us apart from the brokers in the market.
Okay.
And I think thirdly, it's kind of more of a soft benefit. But, Asif's been investing in companies for a long time. I've created, run, and exited multiple businesses. So it's not just someone who's sat on the other side of the table. We really understand how businesses work and how they should be exited.
Very cool. Okay, can we do a walkthrough of, let's say, if I wanted to sell my business, what would happen? What's the experience on Bidsy?
So I'll tell you what you would do right now without Bidsy, and then I'll tell you what you do with Bidsy, right?
Yeah, sure.
Let's say you're running a restaurant, right? Like Akshay used to run Biryani Pot, for example, right? You're running a restaurant, you'll call up a broker, you'll say, look, I want to sell my business. He'll say, okay, perfect. Tell me what's your asking price and what your revenue is. The broker will try and use his network to try and find interested buyers or prospective investors into your business. He has no understanding of your business. He or she has no understanding of your business. No idea whether the financials are actually correct. No idea whether you have any hidden liabilities. No idea if there are any red flags in your business. But they'll go out to market. Then, let's say they find a prospective investor or buyer. And while they do that, they might even leak the name of the business to get interested buyers. So confidentiality just goes out the window.
Right.
Once you find someone interested, you have to engage with them to share the details of your business, set up a data room, update it with more information as and when requested, hire a lawyer to go and build out things like a non-disclosure agreement, a letter of intent, and a share sale and purchase agreement, all of which will set you back a bit. Once all of that is done, you have an option to either show up at the DET or whichever emirate you're in at the licensing authority and transfer the license. But then do you take payment first and then transfer the license, or transfer the license and then take payment?
Right.
Right? It's a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, so the escrow.
So the escrow.
Yeah.
But a lot of these parts are missed out because what's happening in this part of the world is business transactions are often run like real estate transactions. Show the product, someone likes it, that's great. Buyer and seller can engage on their own, and we'll show up when the license is getting transferred or the title deed is getting transferred.
Okay.
What we've tried to do, and a lot of credit goes to Akshay with all the experience that he gained during his days as a lawyer.
All the gray hair I gained.
All the gray hair. What we learned is that the SME market deserves a lot of sophistication. They deserve the same level of bespoke customization that a Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley would offer their customers, right? And that was severely lacking in this industry, or in this part of the world,
Okay.
and for the SME domain. So what we did is we tried to take the same level of finesse and bring it down to the SME market. So with Bidsy, we've encapsulated the advisory piece,
Okay.
the legal piece, and the escrow piece. So it's a 3-in-1 into a single automated platform, which is called Bidsy.
Okay.
If you're selling your business, you go on to the marketplace, you go on to Bidsy, list your business, we'll take in the information, ingest it, build out an information memorandum, or in our part of the world, a bid report, publish it to the marketplace, reach out to customers, prospective buyers and investors that would be interested in your business, initiate the engagement between both buyer and seller, and then handhold the process digitally until it goes to closing.
Okay.
And what happens is you save money because you're not engaging with multiple resources. You save a lot of time because you're going through a single platform, and it's much less complex. Would you rather spend time on selling your business or running your business?
Right.
Because the opportunity cost is if you're running your business, then the revenue and profit still stays the same or grows. But if you're focused on selling your business, the operations take a hit, especially if it's dependent on you.
And then that reflects in your price that you get, I guess.
Exactly.
And then that's a really good point that Asif raised at the end there. I don't think sellers truly appreciate the amount of time and effort that will go into selling their business.
Right.
So on average, for even a small 2-3 million dirham sale, you could spend 400 hours of management time on responding to DD questionnaires, on the legal documentation, management meetings, showing people around. There will be a lot of time taken up, which is distracting you from your core function.
Right.
Especially if you have ex-management consultant buyers that are going to run, 500-page due diligence exercises.
Right. Okay. So do you guys have a criteria for what kind of businesses you would accept on Bidsy in terms of like financials? I'm not talking about verticals or industries, but like a certain scale of company or anything like that.
So generally, we prefer profitable businesses.
Okay.
Because they're just easier to sell, right?
Right.
But we do make exceptions for businesses that are loss-making, especially if they've been running for less than 12 months. If it's a hot industry, for example, pets, right? Grooming services or daycare centers, right? For pets are really hot these days.
Okay.
So if anyone's interested in that, then we would onboard that business just because it has a higher likelihood of getting sold.
Okay.
So I think those are the two factors. And then the third is, it's a bit of an X factor, but it's a sniff test. We'll have a conversation with the prospective seller and just kind of gauge, and see how willing he is to share the information, or if he is talking about a certain top line and bottom line figure, but that's not correct in the financials that's provided. So if it fails the sniff test, if we feel it's a bit sketch, then we kind of pull back because there are a lot of businesses and it's just very interesting to note. So the Ministry of Economy expects there to be about 1 million businesses or trade licenses by 2030.
Okay.
Now, if you marry that with a statistic from the Small Business Administration in the US, which says that the average lifespan of a business is 8.5 years, which means there's about 100,000 businesses either going bust, getting sold, or shutting down every year. Now, even if you assume that there's a lot of shell companies, a lot of holdcos, a lot of licenses that are dormant, even if you assume that only 10% are actual running businesses, right, which are profitable, that's about 10,000 businesses every year. So it's a huge, huge market that we are trying to serve with Bidsy.
Very cool. So how do you think AI is helping you guys with this whole process? I understand like there's a lot of documentation that probably happens, when a company needs to go to market. There's a lot of compliance, legal stuff, financial reports that need to be analyzed and scrutinized, valuations that need to be made. So like, how are you guys handling that internally?
So I think what we've done is we've actually tried to leverage our own expertise or experience and bring in tools or processes that help speed up time to market or speed up time to outcome. Akshay has been a lawyer, and Akshay also has a very good grasp of financial statements. Okay. So he's brought in a lot of insights into how we can optimize those two domains. And then because I was in tech and primarily sales, I've brought in a bit of insight into how we can optimize for those two domains. So Akshay, I think might be a good idea for you to tell everyone how we have improved our legal posture with our customers, as well as how financials, which would sometimes take hours, are now being crunched out very, very quickly.
Yeah. So at the start of a transaction, when we are reviewing and analyzing a business, the two main areas where we have utilized AI, one is obviously in preparation of the information memorandum, when we draw out the information about the business, profiles of the business, customer data, customer concentration, financials, assisting us in preparing a good quality IM, which can trawl through obviously vast volumes of information and concisely pull that into an information memorandum. We use that, and we've got pretty well built out sort of scripts and skills and prompts for that. The other is also linked to the same thing, identifying, like we were discussing earlier, Sid, vendor due diligence. Right. Identifying potential red flags that a buyer is going to pick up and picking them up before we even go to market so that they can be addressed between us and the seller. So that's on the sort of prep side. On the legal side, we use a mixture of proprietary sort of legal tools that we've developed and third-party legal AI, which is very, very good at helping us not only in the preparation, but more in the negotiation and the marking up and drafting the legal documents. All of this, leads to us being able to provide more efficient, more concise, quicker sort of services to our clients and at a much more affordable price. To be able to provide all the expertise that we're doing historically before AI would have maybe meant a team of 15 people, right? Both on the financial and the IM, brokerage, legal. Now we're doing it with much, much leaner teams than that. And beyond that, there's the kind of buyer and seller matching piece, which Asif's expertise led into, which in fact he's been working on and has prepared a fantastic kind of outreach agent that assists us phenomenally.
Okay. So on the customer acquisition side, you're talking about.
But also just one thing, right? And this is where operations meets tech, right? With all the different transactions that we've seen, there's a lot of red flags that we've picked up, right? Like in terms of what could either torpedo a deal or make it go through.
Yeah.
And actually, Akshay just today published the book that you've been working on, which is essentially a buyer's due diligence guide.
Okay.
And it actually captures all the different red flags that could come up when you're trying to buy a business. And then we run that on all the data that we get from a seller.
Right.
And we prepare them to say that, look, there's about 40 things that you're good at, but there's about 13 things or 15 things that might pop up that a buyer might walk away from the deal with because of A, B, C, D, E reason. And so we're using that sort of proprietary knowledge, not really proprietary because every M&A advisor or investment banker would know that, but we're taking that information and then applying it to the data that we get to understand how likely a business is to be sold or not. And we assign an internal score on how ready that business is. In fact, in the UI redesign that we're launching in a few weeks, we're providing that as a free tool where an exit readiness score is assigned to any business that wants to get sold based on certain characteristics or features which they can respond to on the portal.
Awesome. Just want to understand if a business approaches you and once they provide their documents to you, how long do you guys need to analyze, understand the business, value it, and then put it up on your marketplace? Like, what's the time to market for them?
So last weekend it was 2 hours.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So look, I'll let Asif take it, but I'm going to preface this with it depends on the quality of information and the completeness of information.
Right.
If we have complete quality information up front, then it can be very quick.
So we had audited statements, VAT returns, trade license, MOA, lease agreement.
This is for the construction business.
For the coffee shop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So once you have all that information, so garbage in, garbage out,
of
right?
course, yeah.
So the quality of the information that we got was really good, which is why we were able to analyze it, build out a little bit of an IM, publish the listing to our marketplace, and initiate email marketing such that we had 2 interested buyers by Monday. We pushed out the listing on Saturday, and we had 2 folks that were interested in buying the business by Monday.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So, of course, a big part of your platform is customer outreach, right? Like, so I want to sell my business and then you guys need to find a buyer for me, right? So what's your process for that? How do you guys do outreach? How do you identify potential buyers that might want to buy my business?
So give me a theoretical business that you're selling.
My failed car rental startup, Ijara car.
So it's an automotive and a tech business.
Yeah, so we had a tech business where, I mean, we shut it down during COVID.
Okay.
It's just a joke. But like, we did about 1.5 million dirhams in revenue. Our margins were about 15 to 20%. It was a tech platform ready to be scaled to other markets. It was designed to be, a regional app in Saudi and Dubai, but we never got past Dubai. And once COVID hit, we were just not able to raise the funding to take it bigger. So at that point, I was looking to sell it, and Bidsy would have been a great option.
Perfect. So depending on when you wanted to sell it, right? So for example, if you wanted to sell it now, we'd likely position it as an asset sale because it's not really a running business, right?
Right.
And someone who's interested in that business would look at picking up the IP, the tech platform, the source code, and so on.
Yeah.
Let's say we looked at selling the business pre-COVID when you were still running the business, doing about 1.5 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So the first thing we do is ask you for all the business information. financials ideally audited, if not then management accounts, trade license, MOA, lease agreements, HR information, IP information, and so on, right? So we'd ask you for the entire 9 yards of everything related to your business.
Yeah.
Everything across finance, operations, legal, tech, IP, and anything miscellaneous. Once we have all that information, we'd crunch it and build out an information memorandum. An information memorandum is essentially an investment overview for your business to attract potential buyers or investors.
Okay.
We take that and then we would publish it to our marketplace, right? We've got a few thousand users that have registered. You would have those many eyeballs clicking on it and being able to see what the business is. Now, the one thing that we've seen in the UAE is that everyone is interested in selling their business, but they don't want anyone to know that they're selling their business.
Right.
So confidentiality is quite high on their list of priorities, right?
Of course.
We've met people who want to sell, but they don't want employees, suppliers, customers, family members. No one should know that they're selling, right? So
Right.
what we do is, one best practice that we've adopted is putting up anonymous listings. So we'll put up the highlights of the business, financial information, key USPs, growth story, market trends, and certain financial information like revenue, EBITDA, expenses, industries multiple for that business, as
Okay.
well as what the EBITDA multiple is for that business based on the asking price that has been put forward. So it's a nice little teaser for what that business entails. Once anyone expresses an interest, all they do is they click on the contact seller, which initiates an NDA. So you don't have to call a lawyer and say, hey, help me prepare or draft an NDA. Just
Right.
click on contact seller. It'll initiate an NDA, populate your data, and send it off to the seller. So let's say I have expressed an interest. You'll get the NDA, and then you can see who the person is. So you can see if I'm a competitor,
Okay.
or if I am someone that you don't know, right? So you can run your own high-level DD to see who the person is.
Right.
Let's say I'm a competitor just trying to look under the hood. You can easily say decline, and I would never know who the business owner is,
Interesting. Yeah.
right? But let's say you've accepted it, then the name of your company and your name will become visible,
Okay.
right? Once that becomes visible, I have the ability as a buyer to engage with you through the messaging platform that we've built into the platform. Right?
Okay.
I can send you a message, ask you a few questions. We can get the conversation going to the point where the next step kicks in, which is the creation or alignment of the letter of intent. So once I've had a chat with you, I've got certain high-level information. I've understood what your business is, how well you're doing, who your key customers are, which geographies you operate in. And I've said, okay, you know what? This warrants a further deep dive. I can execute a letter of intent, which is a non-binding offer. We've simplified, and again, all credit goes to Akshay. As the lawyer, he's taken a very complex document and simplified it for our audience, for our customers, right? So a letter of intent can sometimes be 10 pages long, but we have narrowed or simplified it down to literally 6 different drop-down options, like how long should the exclusivity be for, what the asking price is, and so on.
Okay.
So it makes it very easy for the average business owner who might have no understanding of legal terminology, right? We've
Right.
abstracted away that complexity and produced a very simple approach to how they can align with a prospective buyer on the letter of intent or the non-binding offer. All of that is electronically signed by a TDRA approved solution in the UAE,
Okay.
right? And once that's signed, both buyer and seller will receive the signed document. And then that opens up the data room. Now, the data room contains all the information that you've shared with me.
Right.
Legal, operational, financial, lease agreements, HR information, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Once I see all of that, I can ask you for more information, again, through the platform.
Okay.
Now, mind you, if I wanted to go and set up a data room on my own, it might cost me a few $100s to go and get a subscription for a data room.
Right.
But we provide that, again, through the platform for our users. You can go back and forth. The Q&A pairs are stored in the platform. And then the idea is to get people comfortable enough to the next legal document, which is the share sale and purchase agreement, or the SPA.
Okay.
The SPA is the definitive document. Definitive is right.
Correct.
Perfect. It's the definitive document that helps buyers and sellers align on the sale of the business.
What is SPA stand for? Sale purchase
Share
agreement?
sale and purchase agreement.
Okay. Yeah.
And it contains a lot of information such as what is the asking price, What are the reps and warranties that are provided? Are there any liabilities that are disclosed? A lot of different things that are important and pertain to the sale of that business.
Okay.
That's about 26 different clauses. Again, most of them are drop-down options. So we've simplified it significantly, right?
Okay.
We've seen SPAs that run into like hundreds of pages, right? And we've narrowed it down.
Just to add to that, Asif, I think the SPA we produced for these transactions is targeted at the clients that would probably proceed without an SPA if they didn't have access to it.
Right.
Because good quality legal services are expensive, and sometimes on a smaller transaction, it just doesn't warrant the fees. The transaction just doesn't make sense. So we've distilled it to the most important protective provisions for both buyers and sellers. So it covers what's needed, but doesn't go beyond, because you can give the document to a lawyer and they'll just keep drafting until the cows come home. So that's why sometimes buyers and sellers don't want to use our document, which is absolutely fine. And that's normally in that situation, they'll bring their own lawyers on board and they'll negotiate further. But that's kind of the intent behind our legal docs.
Yeah.
And then once you align on the SPA, you sign it electronically, and then it goes to the next step, which is roping in the escrow agent to collect the manager's check from the buyer, and then ensure that the check is only released based on a certain trigger, which, for example, would be the issuance of a new trade license with the buyer's name on it.
Okay.
So that's how the process would work. Now, for your business, what we would do, right? We'd look at potential investors from our database who have expressed an interest in that sort of a business, right?
Okay.
Something in the automotive industry or something in the tech industry. We would also run our own proprietary analysis to be able to figure out which businesses across the region and potentially across the world would be interested in that sort of a business.
Okay.
Right? We'd identify certain parameters, feed it into our tools that we use, and then run that flow to be able to identify, look, these are potential acquirers based on what their revenue is, what budget they have they any experience in the M&A sector, are there any published stories of acquisitions that they've made, how active they are within the region, what's their headcount, because that kind of tells us also how big they are in the mood for acquisitions.
Right.
And that helps us create a list to which we use that list and then reach out to the decision makers based on the highlights of your business and try and spin the narrative to show what a great business that is.
So you handle the marketing side end to end, so for me, I just have to give it to you guys and you guys would find a buyer for me, right?
Yeah. So, we get this question asked a lot. It's like, how long will it take to sell my business?
Yeah.
And for us, we say, look, it comes down to three factors. How soon you can give us your information and documentation.
Right.
How soon we can find someone who's interested. And then how soon you can negotiate the final terms.
Right. I'm sure everyone listening to this has one big question, is if they want to sell their business, what can they expect as a multiple of, like, let's say their revenue or their EBITDA? What is the range you guys usually see?
So look, you're right. Everyone does want to know that, right?
Right.
How much is my business worth? And at the risk of sounding like I'm evasive here, it depends on a lot of factors.
Of course.
So to give you an example, if you've got a single unit pet grooming business, for example, and you had pretty flat revenues for the past few years, but it's operating, it's fairly dependent on the seller, that's going to command a much lower valuations. Typically, single unit locations in that sort of range will be between a 3 and a 5 maximum multiple of EBITDA.
Yeah.
Now, I'll run a live example. Let's say that particular business I described is doing 5 million in revenue and making $1 million dirhams in EBITDA every year. That may only get you, like I said, a 3 to 5, let's say a 4 multiple in EBITDA. 4 million dirhams. But the same thing if you've got maybe 5 locations and those 5 are doing 5 million in revenue and a total of $1 million in EBITDA, that could command you a higher multiple based on things like greater geographic spend, lower customer concentration because you're in multiple locations. possibly less dependence on the seller, because one seller is not going to be able to really be hands-on across 5 locations.
Right.
So in that case, you could expect a higher multiple, maybe even 7-8 times EBITDA.
Okay.
So it really does depend on the situation and on the business.
Right.
And of course, it's the whole lifelong challenge of sellers overvaluing and buyers wanting a great deal and wanting to undervalue.
Right. Just wanted to understand what kind of traction you guys have so far. Like, what is the average deal size? How many transactions have you guys done? What are you guys looking at in the coming?
So I'll give you this sort of average deal size and data, and then Asif, who's much closer on the kind of sales side, will jump in if I make a mistake. Okay. So our average deal size really ranges all the way from a small deal, which could run completely through the platform, 1 million dirham enterprise value, all the way up to the largest transactions which we've got, which are more than 200 million dirhams. We see a lot of transactions in the 15 to 30 million dirham range.
Okay.
Typically, those are not run through the platform. We run those in a more traditional way, but we still use all of the sort of AI and tech tools in the back to assist us.
Right.
In terms of where we stand today, Asif, we're about 33 sell-side mandates.
Correct.
So 33 mandates as of today under management. In terms of deals closed, 11 transactions in the last few years. And currently we have over 500 million dirhams of enterprise value under management right now.
Very interesting. So, this is not a typical consumer-facing business or a high-volume business, right? So, are you guys looking to raise funding or to scale this, or what's your plan to scale this? I'm just curious how this works. Are you looking to raise VC money or something like that?
So I don't think raising VC has been on our vision board as of yet. Bidsy is a company that both Akshay and I have funded from our own pockets, and we expect to do that for the coming years. In terms of...
Well, right now it's funding itself, and we expect that to continue for many years.
Yes. Okay. In terms of scaling, we have a few potential mandates from Saudi. Okay. That we are actively looking at in terms of taking on. If we do so, then that unlocks another geography for us. But right now, we're still kind of playing in the UAE market because there's hundreds and thousands of companies that are looking for exits at any given point.
It's a big enough market.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think there's an interesting story that comes out from your funding question. So obviously, M&A has a very lumpy revenue cycle, right? Deals can take a lot of time to come to fruition. Yeah. And at one point in that journey, when Asif and I talked about, okay, we don't want to keep funding it when it was very early from our pockets. Yeah. So we developed our own model of how to fund a business, right? Not bank debt, not VC or fundraising. We set up another company to help with the cash flow. So that's where we set up a law firm to assist with more of the cash flow requirements and to, of course, provide the legal expertise on the transactions. But that ended up becoming a profit center of its own. So it's a standalone business now that supports Bidsy as part of what it does. But I think fundraising and especially venture capital is a little bit misleading for a lot of small business owners and especially small startups. You've really got to think carefully. Do you need venture capital? Right. What are you going to use that money for? Do you want to really spend, as soon as you bring in venture capital, you're spending majority of your time on the next funding round and on board meetings, convincing people that a lot of the time haven't ever run a business, but have all the expertise and will keep telling you what you're doing right and wrong. So I'd say to anyone listening to this to really think carefully if you do want to fundraise on how are you going to deploy that money and, where and how is it going to really scale your business to the next level? Yeah. Not every business is made for that sort of hyper growth that venture capital requires.
Yeah, so it's a trend actually that I've been noticing more and more lately. More of the founders that I actually speak to are not looking to raise VC funding. One is because I think because of AI, they've got so much more leverage now. that you could probably do what you require, maybe a tech team of, like 10 developers, and then sales team, and then operations staff. Like you need that VC money to like kind of build up your team to like 30-40 people to go to market. And now you can do that with a much smaller team with the leverage of AI. So I'm seeing a lot more founders going solo, or just a founder and co-founder, or a really small team, and they're able to achieve what VC money would get you previously. So that's quite interesting of a trend that I've seen.
Yeah, well, there's a lot these days about the single-person billion-dollar company.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
And they're popping up more and more now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Asif and I are going to hopefully be the two-person, $2 billion company.
Brilliant. So you've obviously been an entrepreneur before. Any advice for entrepreneurs? Because most of our audience are, in that range. Like, what do you have any advice?
So look, I've obviously got lots of advice that I've learnt from my own experiences when I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made some good decisions, some bad decisions, like any entrepreneur will have. But I think what I would say to those wanting to start out on an entrepreneurial journey is think very carefully about whether you want to start completely from scratch and create a business from nothing, or if your passion and your idea already exists, which in 99.99% of cases does, do very seriously consider if you can go and acquire a running business so that you're starting from, level 10 rather than 0.
Right.
Because it's not, we've all heard the statistic that only 1 in 10 startups survive and all the rest of it. A running business, and that's part of what Bidsy does, really lets you hit the ground running, and all of that same energy that you would have expended on starting and growing can be expended on growing further and taking it to the next level. Especially in the SME space, there's only really a handful of things that you need to do to scale up, right? Number one, when you go in and buy something, maybe it needs automation, especially in line with AI automation and making flow and processes much more efficient. It will need marketing. It'll probably need a branding revamp or a good quality website. It'll need maybe renegotiation on a bunch of your rents and supplier contracts and so on. So there's a handful of things that can be done, and it's only these 3 or 4 which will take it to the next level. And you'd think, well, why doesn't the seller already do that? They've been running it for multiple years. They're tired. They don't have the fresh energy. They don't have the capital. There are multiple reasons why. So I think my advice in the context of what we're doing at Bidsy in this conversation would be always become an entrepreneur if that's what you want to do. There's nothing better in life than being an entrepreneur. Right. And I've sat on both sides. I've been an employee as a lawyer. I've been a multiple entrepreneur. It's the best thing you'll do. It's so fulfilling in your life. But do look at entrepreneurship through acquisition rather than just starting from the ground up.
I think that's some brilliant advice. It takes a lot of time and effort just to go from 0 to 1 when you're starting a new business. So I think it's brilliant advice. So if somebody is looking to acquire a business or sell their business, where should they go and what should they do?
Just head on over to bidsy.io and register and drop us a message, and we'd love to help you out.
All right, we're going to be leaving links in the description for Bidsy, so do go check them out, even if you're just curious to know how much businesses cost in Dubai. We leave links to these guys' LinkedIn profiles as well in the description, so you guys can go check it out. Please do like and review this podcast. It really helps us to spread the word and more people can hear it and find it in the algorithms. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we're going to end it right there. Keep on hustling.
Thank you, Sid.
Thank you very much.